trouble don't last.
Today's sermon, When the Praising Stops, the Trouble Starts. Reading from the book of John, chapter 12, verses 12 through 19, by Pastor Brian Carpenter.
When the worship stops, the trouble begins. When the worship stops, the trouble begins. Many of us in our lives have been in a place where we wanted to make a grand entrance. And I know back in the day when I was going to a barbecue or going to a party, I would ride around the block a few times to make sure there was enough people there before I was going to make my entree. And, you know, a lot of the times I was suited and booted. I had my fresh cologne on, and I was ready to make an entree. So I wasn't willing to go in there when there's 2 or 3 people in there. I wanted the house to be full when I walked in there. I mean, many of us have been in that same place. When we come to a place of worship or whatever we're trying to do, we want to make a grand entrance. You see it a lot of times when the stars get together to get their rewards. They always have out the red carpet. The red carpet is designed to bring out something in them. They always stand and take their selfies, and they're doing all these different things, but most of us or in that same place today, we just want to be honest. We want to be in a place, we just want to make an entrance sometimes. But, you know, when God makes an entrance in our life, you know, we need to celebrate that as well. You know, some of the things that's going on in our life, some of the struggles that we go through in our life, when Jesus makes an entrance in your life, we got to get to a point of holy celebration. I see too many of us have gotten to a place of complacency, not understanding how great God is and the sacrifices he's made for us. So, I mean, we make that entree. Think about how God made an entrance. He came in with ultimate humility. But everybody was consumed with his coming because of what he could do for them, not what they could do for him. They was one to say, man, this is that dude we heard do all these other things in so many other people's lives. I want to meet that dude. I'm not concerned about service and none of that other kind of stuff. Only thing I'm consumed with was that dude. I need to see. I'd heard about it. Now we get to a place we should be worshiping God. Now we're looking at him in a whole different dynamic, Katie. I mean, worship sometimes is cut off sometimes because we're looking at the concept of what other folks is doing around us, you know, and we sit around and look at other folks, you know, say, you know, some people come into the church, they sing a holy dance, they run around all that, and what's the first thing some of us do? What's wrong with them? What's going on with them? You know, because their worship is somewhere different from ours, sometimes we don't get the concept, do we? We got to understand when I worship, we're in that place of worship, we're giving it all back to the Lord. And that's the one thing they were doing. They were worshiping God, but they're for the wrong season, the wrong reason sometimes. And they had a false concept of what in the world was going on. Jesus was coming. He's about to go to the cross for our sin, but they're more celebrating what in the world he could do for them. I mean, think about it. Some of us coming to church the same way. They want to see what the church can do for it. We're not looking to serve. We're looking to see what in the world the church can do for me. When Jesus, they gave us all. He gives us a place to come in and worship. He gives us a place to come in and give back to him. He gives us a place to come and raise up holy hands. But is that enough sometime in our lives? But the first thing we want to deal with is the false concept of Jesus coming into our life. Many of us think Jesus will come into our life one way. Jesus can only come into our life just that one way. I seen him come through the door. That's the only way I can see it, right? I heard the songs. I've heard all the worship. I read the scriptures and all that. But Jesus can only come to me one way, right? So we only think we can be delivered just that one way. But think about it. How many of us have came to Christ and had a different way of deliverance, of getting to Jesus? Somebody could have told us about Jesus. We could have just had a awe-struck moment when we read the word, but somehow or another, Jesus seems to get through, doesn't he? But in this place of worship, they were anticipating Jesus coming, and they started their place of celebrating. They grabbed the palm branches, and all of them start waving them, and they celebrating, and then they were waiting for Jesus to come and do something. The beautiful thing about the palms, it means victory and triumph. They were celebrating the fact that Jesus was coming. But how many of us have lost that concept in our life? The celebration was coming. The palm trees are waving. But how many of us lose that when Jesus doesn't respond the way we would like? They celebrated. They laid him down as Jesus came down the road. The significance of the palm trees. They're waving in celebration that Jesus has now came. We worshiping Jesus in spirit and in truth. Think about it when you came in and gave your life over to Christ. That was a great celebration, wasn't it? But what happened in the midst of that? Something has gotten disconnected, hasn't it? Because I don't still have that same joy that I had before. Because see, now I got to get my pump prime a little bit more to understand what Jesus had done for me. In this season, they took the palm branches and they laid them all down. Jesus came in. They laid their coats and everything down. And when they got done, they took and burned the palms. And they took the ashes and put the crosses on their head. That's where you get Ash Wednesday. That's what it was all about. They was worshiping God because of who he was. But they didn't want to miss the moment. Some have some point of significance that will symbolize who I am as a believer. Like many of them, they believed all their troubles would be over. How many of us think that same thing? Boy, once I got myself into that church, all my troubles would be over. But reality is we didn't caught more in the church than we have outside the church. I mean, when we go through fasting, I know last year we went through fasting, we lost folk and lost jobs and all this kind of stuff. I was like, now, come on, God. Now, I know this is not the place where you wanted these people to be. They're already broken, busted, and going through things. But now we challenge them to go to another place and they worship. And this is what happens. We get so distraught when we go through some things. And one of the things that was shared to me, Sister Kroon talked and sent me a message the other day and go listen to the sermon. And when I listened to it, he talks about those dark places in our lives. When we go through those dark places in our life, those are not very good places in our lives, right? But if we look back at those places as a place of worship, then we understand what God was doing through the midst of the storm. Oh, come on now. We were in bondage there, in a place of brokenness. These people were in a place where they didn't know Jesus. They had no idea of the power that he was coming in to this place. They missed it totally. He said, I'm coming here to do something for all of y'all. The worship is real, right? But we fail to get ourselves in a self-denial that it takes to achieve what God is trying to do. When we get ourselves in a place of self-denial, it's not about him no more. It's about me getting myself together. Jesus has shown us the ultimate humility to come into this place and do something for the people who are broken, busted, and disgusted. He said, I know all about your problems. I understand what your problem is. A God that knows all things, has infinite wisdom. You don't think what you're going through is a surprise to him? Somehow or another, boy, I just lost my job. Boy, God, where are you now? How in the world are we people that don't understand that God allows us to go through these seasons for a reason? But can I still worship God when I go through it? Can I still get on my knees and still thank God when I lost everything in my house? Because God says I'm building another house on the other side for you, crazy. But you're so consumed about this house here that needs all this work. It's falling down all around you. But this is my mama's house. That don't make no sense. People standing around, they raising up holy hands. You know how you get sometime in church, everybody's worshiping and, the word goes out, but then I go home, I'm still hungry. Something happened there, right? Most of us have thought all that God had to do was just show up and everything else would take care of itself. It's hard to see sometimes in our situation when I've given myself over to Christ, my situation could get any worse. What kind of God allows me to go through what I'm going through? Have any of us, can we be honest and say, man, how can you allow me to go through this? And I say I'm a professed believer. You said you love me, but I'm going through this. I've lost everything. I've lost everything but my name, but yet I still stand. I lost my vehicle. I've lost children. I've lost everything. But when we put it in perspective, what is it? It's all his anyway. Jesus just taking back what's his. When we lose a loved one, especially when they're connected to him, this is a time of celebration. I love funerals because I understand. When you got folk that say, baby, that's where I want to be. Man, I'm tired of getting up every day going to work. This struggle is real. I'm tired of dealing with some of the folks I got to deal with in my life. I want to go to a place of glory. He said, when you transition, you're going to be at a place of rest. I'm tired. I want to go rest. Amen? But he said they thought the king was coming. And one of the things that transforms it and through this is they had seen that he had raised up Lazarus. And we seen that in the text. They said, well, man, this is the guy who gave them that great blessing. I'm going to go over there and try to get some of that from him, right? But how many of us are thinking the same thing? You know, think about our prayer life sometime. I want you to record your prayer life. That's your challenge this week. Record a couple of your prayers, and you play them back to yourself. And how many of it is, God, give me this. God, go before me and do that. God, prepare a place for me. God, do the healing. God, how can I serve you better? How can I, get to know you? Show me through your word how I can be better. But it comes to be like we send God around like he's Benson, don't we? Do this. Go get the door. Go get me some water. I'm tired. Give me a job. Give me an increase. Instead of giving him glory. But think about the true concept of Jesus. He came in on a donkey, right? Jesus used the donkey to symbolize peace, service, and sacredness. He said, I'm going to go to something that has not been ridden before. The donkey in Old Testament and New Testament translates into the carrying of burdens of men. Because I was wondering, why in the world would he go and get a donkey to ride in on? Because it carried the burdens of men. So the symbol of what God was doing now, he said, I'm going to carry your burdens to the cross. Oh, come on now. Somebody's missing the whole thing here. He said, I'm taking this step for you. He said the concept that I'm going to go through means I'm going to take all those things with me to the cross, because you're missing it in the space that we're in now, because we're thinking about abstracting from God. God said, I'm showing you a picture of what it means to take it all back to him. He said, I already know what's going to go on. I know my life is going to be held in the next few days, but you know what? I'm willing to do this in the midst of everything that's going on, because I understand what my Father has called me to do. The ultimate humility and honor of Jesus is showing up as a real appeal to those who really understand sacrifice. He said, not only am I going to do this, but I'm going to sacrifice my life in front of everybody. But think about it, we talk about going to the cross. Who went with it? A thief and a robber. What was all those other people? What was the leper? What was Mary? Peter? What was all these folks he'd been delivering all this time? Where are you in the midst of where God is going? Understanding this true faith and this sacrifice and where he is about to go in this faith week. Where are you at in the midst of this, right? Jesus now coming to a place of great exhilaration, right? Everyone is this climatic place because they see the Savior. They see, out of all the things I've been going through in my life, now I get to see him. I worship him because I can get to see him in the midst of it. He is about to go to the cross for me. How can I not celebrate that, right? All the beliefs and my concerns and all these things are now gone, because now I can worship him. Everybody's standing around in great celebration, right? The euphoria is great. You've been in those places where I just lose my mind sometimes for God, because everything he's doing, man, everything is coming to place right now. God sometimes gives us a vision in the midst of our worship, and it all comes together. My reading, my suffering, everything now comes together because Jesus is now shown up. The celebration has to continue because we're in a place where we need to learn how to continue our worship through our struggles. Some of us are going through sicknesses right now. Some of us have family members that are going through great struggles. And somehow or another, when we go through these struggles, we disconnect. We should be trying to get closer. The closer we walk to Jesus, the more that he reveals to us through his word. You got to go through something to get to something. I know that sounds cliche, but the thing about it is that's reality. The palm branch, he said, man, we're celebrating, Lord, right? But many of us are worshiping God for the wrong concepts and not understanding the true climax of what God is trying to extract from us when we go through this season. Easter is a place where we go. We understand Jesus is about to be dismantled right from in human flesh for us as believers. How do we just take this as just another day? This is the one day of the year I'm going to skip out in church because everybody else is going to be there. That don't even make no sense. I want to see hats cocked to the side, all the pageantry that comes along with it, because this is who we are as believers. I'm willing to do everything I can for you. These burdens that we're going through right now are nothing compared to what Jesus went through. How many of us seen the Passion of the Cross? Man, when I seen that, I cried like a baby. And when they was whipping him, I said, stop it! I mean, come on. I mean, how much did he go through? He had all the power to stop it right there. He could have called down the angel and said, that's it. Wipe all these jokers out right now. But he said, I'm willing to suffer for you. Think about it. That stuff you're going through right now, a lot of us dealing with diabetes and all these kind of things are going on. And we wondering, I'm suffering enough. My joints is hurting. This is going on. Go back to what he went through and never uttered a word of this concern and chattering. He just said, you know what? Turn me over. How many of us got that same mentality? Beat me down, baby, and turn me over and keep on beating. Because I understand that Jesus is my Lord. And one day I'm going to leave here and I'm going to be in a better place. When we learn what true worship is, we'll go through some things and not look back on those things. Those are the defining moments as Christians. Those things are the things that take us to this whole new level. That is the reason I push my way through. That is the reason I don't just wear a cross to be wearing it. I wear one because I believe in what he did for me. He said, but we got to go through a reality check, right? He said, many of the people gathered in this place, but it's just a place to be seen. Many of us are coming to the same place. We just want to be, seen in the church. Look at Facebook something all day today. All you're going to see is selfies. This is where I'm at. Look at me and my girl. But how many of us have come in there for the substance of God instead of just being in a place to be seen? When we're in a place like that, we always just want to be in a place to be seen. We're gathering in these places and all that. Just because we can be seen, I can go back and tell my girl, yeah, girl, I went to church today. But how much of that has changed my life? Now, I went in church, I left out the same way. My mouth was just as nasty as it was when I went in there. But I could come back and tell you, girl, you slept in, and I got a word, and it was for you. Come on, man. It was for you. That's what it was for. The people, they came to the party. They seen Lazarus. They seen God had redeemed somebody from the dead. A lot of us are going through the same place. A piece of us have died. We don't celebrate those components because sometimes we're walking in darkness. When we allow that darkness to come to light, then we can celebrate it. But we come in here the same thing. We want to raise holy hands and step back and look cute. But sometimes we got to come to the altar and say, man, I'm all messed up. Because you think I'm all right because I got my perfume on, I got my hairstyle up last night, but in the midst of it, I'm broke. Come on. And I mean, my spirit is tore up. But because everybody else may judge me, I'm in a place where I can't appreciate what God can do for me if I bring my tail down there. I'm more concerned about how I look on the outside of the trip being transformed on the inside. Because I know I'm messed up. I know I am. I done played this game with God too long. God said, now is the time. You about to take your victory lap in here today because God now said the party is over. We got to get to a place where we get serious about what God is doing and quit playing with God because God said, I'm showing you the ultimate humility of how to get to where I am. But what happens when the praising stops? Reality kick in, don't it? When as long as they was worshiping, everything was okay. But then they start looking around. And what was sitting around the corner? The Pharisees was waiting. The whole plot was they was going to try to take him out before he got to Passover. That was the whole reason. And that was the last text that was said. They said, look, when we get ourselves into a place of worship, we're standing around God, and Jesus now creates a barrier around himself of those who are willing to worship him. He said the enemy can't get close to me because everybody else is in worship. He said, man, the best laid plans of the enemy was to take me out. But he said, now I got folk around me who's willing to worship, and look what happens there. He said, we can't even get to him now. When you get yourself in a place of worship and understanding what God truly is, he said the enemy ain't got a chance. He said, man, my best laid plans are going astray by now because I came to do one thing. He said, but Jesus had turned this thing all the way around because I can't get to him now. When we get ourselves in understanding what true worship is and stay in that realm of worship, we're going to the cross. We're going to take it all to the cross because we understand. Now we got a Savior who is going to take it all the way to the cross for our sin. The crowd was there. Everybody was looking for the wrong things. But in the midst of all that, Jesus created an atmosphere of worship that wouldn't allow the enemy to get close. Oh, don't miss that point. When you get yourself to a place of worship, the enemy won't be able to have a chance to get close to you. The best laid plans of the enemy, God was already ahead of him. He said, man, we're going to take this thing to the cross because I understand what you're going through. I see you worship. And he said, but you got to stay in a place of worship, even in your brokenness. You see what I've done for Lazarus. You see what I've done for all these people in my walk. But he said, now you got to stay with me because I'm about to go through something that you won't be able to believe, but you got to stay with it. In your struggle in life, you got to understand that there's going to be more dark days than sunny days. Sometimes the plants don't come up, sometimes they're going to die. Sometimes you can put the best seeds in the ground that you can, thinking your lawn is going to be beautiful, and it's still going to show some brown spots in it because it ain't getting all the elements that it needs. It needs the water, equal amount of sun. The soil has to be prepared properly. When all those things come into place, then you have a beautiful lawn. Jesus said, now is your time to make a connection with me that will allow your days to look better on the other side. I'm not promising you you're not going to go through some things. I'm not promising you that you're not going to go through some struggles. I'm not even going to promise you that you may not leave out of here one day with your feelings hurt. But I guarantee you this, you're going to learn something. And you're going to learn more about Jesus than you're going to learn about anything else. That's what the concept is. It ain't about me and what car I drive and how I look in the mirror. That don't have nothing to do with it. We talking about a God who sent his only begotten Son to die for us all. Undeserving folk who still are walking away from him daily because we're more consumed with ourselves than him. Is there anyone here today that says, man, I'm ready to be transformed by the renewing of Christ in my life? Today is your day to be reconnected with him.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to visit us at Third Dimension Worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. We are located at 40 West 40th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana 46208, inside the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. No matter what your current condition or relationship with God, Third Dimension welcomes you. We look forward to being a blessing to you. Remember to stay connected. Thank you and have a blessed week.